Amara Johnson had never been more nervous in her life. Today wasn't just another day at the office. It was the day she stepped into the gleaming glass doors of Park Enterprises, ready to prove she belonged. Her heels clicked against the polished floors, a steady rhythm that matched her racing heartbeat. She clutched her portfolio tightly, rehearsing polite smiles and professional greetings in her head, yet every scenario seemed to slip the moment she reached the lobby. Minho Park, the CEO of the company, was a man whose reputation preceded him. Tall, impeccably dressed and sharp-eyed, he had a presence that made the air around him feel charged with authority. Amara's first thought was that he looked untouchable, a perfect balance of intimidating and magnetic. She tried to steady her nerves, reminding herself she wasn't just another applicant. She was a skilled assistant, and she had earned this opportunity. Her anxiety reached its peak when, in a moment of clumsiness, her coffee cup wobbled perilously, threatening to spill across the reception desk. Minho's quick reflexes saved the day, steadying the cup with a calm, precise movement. Their eyes met for a brief second, and in that instant, Amara saw something unexpected. Not cold authority but a flicker of concern. "Careful," he said softly, almost a murmur, yet the words carried warmth she hadn't anticipated. Amara's cheeks warmed, a small smile escaping her lips. Maybe this wouldn't be as terrifying as she imagined. Maybe, just maybe, first impressions could hold surprises beyond fear. And as Minho returned to his office, Amara realized she hadn't just survived her first encounter. She had felt something stir within her that she couldn't quite name. Amara's second day at Park Enterprises carried a different kind of tension. The kind that settled quietly in your chest, the anticipation of proving yourself without misstep. Today she was tasked with preparing a crucial report for Minho, a responsibility that made her palms sweat even as she tried to focus. As she hovered over her laptop, numbers and charts blurring into a confusing haze, she felt a presence behind her. Minho had entered the office quietly, almost like a shadow, and yet his attention immediately centered on her. "Everything okay here?" he asked, voice steady but gentle, the way someone might speak to prevent a falling object from shattering. Amara blinked, momentarily startled. "Yes. Almost. Just making sure the projections are accurate." He stepped closer, leaning slightly over her workspace, not intrusive but attentive. He pointed at a minor error she had overlooked, his fingers precise, his tone calm. "See this section? A small adjustment will give you a cleaner summary." For a moment, Amara felt a rush of relief, not just from his guidance, but from the unexpected patience he showed. Most people in his position might have dismissed her efforts, but here was someone noticing, correcting without judgment. Their eyes met, and she caught a glimpse of something soft beneath the surface, an understanding she hadn't expected from a CEO whose reputation screamed perfection. She offered a grateful smile, and he nodded almost imperceptibly, as if acknowledging her effort in silence. By the end of the morning the report was flawless, but more importantly, a tiny bridge had formed between them. Amara realized that Minho was not just the formidable CEO she had imagined, he was someone capable of warmth, someone who could make even the most stressful moments feel less intimidating. By the middle of the week, Amara found herself settling into a rhythm she hadn't expected. The office no longer felt like a maze of intimidating corridors. Instead, it felt like a space where she could breathe, focus, and, most surprisingly, laugh. All because of small moments with Minho that felt unexpectedly personal. During a mid-morning coffee break, she found him leaning casually against the counter, sipping espresso. He looked up, a faint smile touching his lips. "You're early today," he remarked, his voice carrying that rare softness that had started to disarm her. "I like to get a head start," Amara replied, trying to sound confident even though her stomach fluttered. What began as small talk about deadlines and meetings quickly drifted into shared interests. Books, favorite cafes, even quirky habits that made each of them laugh. Amara discovered that beneath Minho's composed exterior was someone who appreciated the little joys in life, someone she could imagine spending time with outside office walls. Later, when a stack of files almost toppled from her desk, Minho appeared just in time to steady them. His hand brushed hers as he passed the papers, and without thinking they both laughed. "Careful," he said, but this time there was a warmth that went beyond concern. Amara found herself leaning into the brief contact, grateful for the reassurance it offered. It wasn't romance yet, not aloud, but there was comfort in the simple hug-like gesture, the way it silently said, "You're safe here, I've got you." By the end of the day, Amara felt lighter, more at ease. The office that had once made her nervous now seemed a little more like a place where connections, real ones, could grow. The announcement came mid-morning. Amara would be assigned to assist Minho directly on an upcoming high-stakes project. Her heart skipped a beat. This was the opportunity she had been waiting for, but working so closely with the CEO herself was enough to make her nervous all over again. Minho approached her office, calm and composed as always. "I'll need your full support for this presentation," he said, handing her a thick folder of documents. There was no hint of condescension in his tone, only trust. Amara nodded, determined to rise to the occasion. Over the next few days they spent long hours together, poring over charts, projections and proposals. Tension often ran high, but so did laughter. Minho had a way of lightening the mood with small observations or dry humor, and Amara found herself smiling more than she expected. One evening, after a particularly grueling session, Amara leaned back in her chair, exhausted. Minho noticed immediately. Without a word, he stood behind her and gently rested a hand on her shoulder. "You're doing well," he said, the simple words carrying encouragement that made her chest warm. She looked up and smiled, letting herself relax against the subtle contact. It wasn't a romantic gesture yet, just a hug in all but name, but it was enough to convey that she wasn't alone in this. That night, as she left the office, Amara felt a mix of pride and something new, something unspoken. Their partnership was professional, yes, but the way Minho had supported her, it felt like the beginning of a connection that could stretch beyond deadlines and reports. For the first time since starting at Park Enterprises, Amara realized that trust, comfort and small moments of care could be as meaningful as any achievement. The office holiday party was in full swing, lights twinkling, laughter echoing through the grand conference hall. Amara had dressed in her favorite emerald green dress, feeling a mix of excitement and self-consciousness. Despite her confidence at work, being surrounded by colleagues and social chatter made her heart race. Minho moved through the crowd with ease, exchanging brief greetings and handshakes, yet he always seemed aware of where Amara was. She tried to enjoy herself, but the attention of co-workers made her cheeks flush. A group of executives approached, asking her questions she didn't have answers to, and for a moment she felt trapped under the weight of expectation. From the corner of her eye, she saw Minho gliding toward her. "Amara," he murmured, his voice calm amidst the noise. Without waiting for an explanation, he gently guided her toward a quieter side of the room. The bustle faded as he offered a reassuring smile. "It's okay. Let's step over here." Amara exhaled, relief washing over her. When he lightly placed a hand on her shoulder in a comforting gesture, it felt like an unspoken promise. "You're seen, you're safe, you matter." She leaned into the small contact, letting the warmth ease her tension. "I didn't realize it could be so overwhelming," she admitted, voice soft. Minho's eyes softened, and he gave her a brief hug that lingered just long enough to convey care without words. "You're handling it well," he said quietly. "And you don't have to do it alone." In that moment, Amara realized something profound. Connection wasn't always about grand gestures. Sometimes it was about presence, understanding, and the silent comfort of a hug. The office was quieter than usual that afternoon, sunlight spilling through the tall windows in golden streaks. Amara sat at her desk, fidgeting with a pen as she stared at the spreadsheet on her screen. Something had been on her mind all week, and the weight of it made her unusually quiet. Minho noticed immediately. He paused at her desk, his keen eyes reading the tension she tried to hide. "Amara," he said softly, "you've been a little distracted today. Everything all right?" She hesitated, unsure if she wanted to reveal her vulnerability. But something about his presence, the calm, unjudging way he spoke, made her feel safe. I sometimes feel insecure about how I look," she admitted finally. "I worry people won't take me seriously, or worse, that I don't belong here." Minho's expression softened, and he stepped closer, placing a hand lightly on hers. "Amara," he said with quiet conviction, "you bring more to this office than anyone realizes. Your talent, your intelligence, your energy, it's remarkable. And I hope you see yourself the way I see you." Her chest tightened, not from embarrassment, but from the sincerity in his words. Slowly, she leaned into him as he offered a hug, not grand, not public, but intimate in its reassurance. It lingered just long enough to make her feel supported, understood, and valued. Pulling back slightly, she met his gaze and saw no judgment, only admiration. For the first time, Amara allowed herself to believe that her worth wasn't measured by numbers or appearance, but by the heart and mind she brought to every interaction. That small, comforting hug marked a turning point. Between them, a new layer of trust had been added, a quiet understanding that they could share their fears and still feel safe. The week started with tension thicker than usual. A minor mix-up on a report had caused some confusion during a board meeting, and Amara felt the sting of embarrassment. She had tried to clarify, but Miho's curt tone in front of others had made her cheeks burn. Later, in the quiet of the office, she lingered at her desk, unsure if she should apologize or wait for him to approach. Minho, noticing her hesitation, came to her side. His expression was unreadable at first, a mix of frustration and thoughtfulness. "Amara," he began carefully, "I realize the way I spoke earlier may have seemed harsh. That wasn't my intention." She looked up, hesitant. I didn't mean to make the mistake, sir. I wanted everything to be perfect." Miho's gaze softened. "I know. And I appreciate your effort. Sometimes I forget that mistakes happen, even to the most competent people." Without another word, he stepped closer and offered a gentle hug. It wasn't dramatic or forced. It was simple, calming, and filled with unspoken reassurance. Amara let herself relax, feeling the tension of the misunderstanding melt away. When they finally pulled back, there was a shared understanding, a silent agreement that their connection was stronger than any moment of friction. The misstep was behind them, and in its place, trust had deepened. Amara realized that some gestures spoke louder than words. A simple hug could convey forgiveness, understanding, and encouragement all at once. And for the first time that day, she smiled without worry. The weekend had finally arrived, and with it, a rare chance for Amara to see Minho outside the office walls. They had decided to explore the city together, a spontaneous outing meant to celebrate a successful week. Amara's excitement bubbled beneath her calm exterior. She had never spent so much casual time with someone she admired so much. They wandered through a bustling street market, sampling treats and laughing at each other's reactions to exotic flavors. Minho tried a spicy snack and nearly coughed it out, earning a teasing grin from Amara. She playfully nudged him, and he caught her hand mid-motion, giving her a warm, light-hearted squeeze. As they continued, they discovered shared interests in small, unexpected ways: photography, street music, quirky bookstores tucked into quiet corners. Every discovery became a shared joke, a moment to connect, a story to carry home. At one point, Amara tripped on a loose cobblestone, and Miho's quick reflexes had her steady in an instant. He pulled her into a reassuring hug, not just to help her regain balance but to remind her silently that he was there. Amara laughed, brushing off the embarrassment, but the hug lingered in a way that made her heart feel lighter than it had in weeks. By the end of the day, the city lights twinkled like stars above them. They walked side by side, occasionally linking arms, occasionally sharing those small, comforting embraces that had become second nature. Amara realized that love didn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it was in laughter, in quiet moments, and in the gentle pressure of a hug that said, "I'm happy to be here with you." The office was unusually still that evening, the golden glow of the setting sun spilling across the floor-to-ceiling windows. Amara stayed behind to finish some final touches on the project, her thoughts unexpectedly heavy with feelings she could no longer ignore. Minho appeared at her side, holding 2 cups of tea. "I thought you might need a break," he said softly, handing her one. The simple gesture made her heart skip, a quiet awareness that he had noticed her exhaustion, and more than that, her heart. They walked together to the small lounge area, the silence between them comfortable yet charged. Amara swallowed nervously. "Minho, I think I need to tell you something," she began, unsure of the words but certain of the feeling. He nodded encouragingly. "I'm listening," he said, eyes calm, inviting. I really enjoy being around you," she admitted, voice trembling slightly. "Not just as my boss or my colleague. I mean more than that." Miho's expression softened, a smile playing at his lips. "Amara," he said quietly, "I feel the same way. You've become someone I admire, someone I care about deeply. I've been waiting for the right moment to tell you." Her chest tightened, emotions surging. Slowly they stepped closer and he wrapped her in a warm, lingering hug. It was more than comfort. It was affirmation, an unspoken promise of honesty, care, and the possibility of something lasting. Amara rested her head on his shoulder, feeling the tension of months dissolve into quiet certainty. Pulling back slightly, they smiled, eyes meeting with the understanding that their connection had blossomed into love. The office had never felt more alive. A sense of accomplishment lingered in the air, not just from completed projects, but from the quiet happiness that Amara and Minho shared. They had navigated misunderstandings, long hours, and growing feelings, and now their connection had reached a new, unshakable depth. It was late afternoon, and the sun cast warm streaks across the skyline. Minho leaned against the window, watching the city below, while Amara stood nearby, her hand brushing against his. The comfort between them was effortless, a natural rhythm that came from months of shared moments, laughter and understanding. I never imagined work could lead to this, Amara murmured, a soft smile on her lips. Minho turned to her, his eyes warm. Neither did I, he admitted. But I'm glad it did. You've changed the way I see everything, how I approach my work and how I feel. She stepped closer and without a word, he wrapped her in a long, tender hug. It wasn't just reassurance or comfort this time, it was a promise, a quiet vow that they would face the future together. Amara rested her head on his chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat, feeling safe, seen and cherished. As the city lights flickered on below, they stayed in that embrace, knowing that whatever challenges came their way, they would face them side by side. For Amara and Minho, the office had become more than a workplace. It had become the place where love quietly blossomed, strengthened by trust, laughter and countless shared hugs. And in that moment they understood the truth of it. Love isn't always loud. Sometimes, it is simply being present, being kind and being together, forever.